So the hard thing is when the opportunity comes and you're so thankful in the opportunity, don't focus on the opportunity that's coming next. Focus on being thankful and grateful for where you are at that particular point. But I struggle with it every single day. I start looking for the doors, they close. I stop looking for the doors, they open.
Thank you for joining us on the Evolve Your Brand podcast. I am your host, Olean Merkees. And as always, I just want to thank all the incredible people at Icon Industries. They do such an amazing job with this podcast. We couldn't do it without them. Shane, ×3. Steven, Antoine, all the guys, we appreciate everything that you do. And without further ado, this has been long overcoming, the one and only Kelly Cardenas. Boom. Hey, buddy, I wore this. Do you want me to fucking talk some shit right off the bat? How about this? I'm like, hey, Kelly, bro, I'm so excited to have you on. What did I say yesterday? Wear your the loudest stuff. I just think you just want a second invite back already.
No, I mean, we're 3-7, the Titans, greatest dynasty of all time.
Ever.
3-7. So I figure that we will go 10-7.
Okay.
And we'll end we'll squeak into the playoffs.
Right.
Win 3 playoff games on the road, go to the Super Bowl, and we'll go to Disneyland.
Do the whole Manning thing. Well, it was the Mannings on the Giants. Like they barely squeaked in, crushed the Patriots. Why not?
That's how I feel.
Because you have no rhyme or reason. There's no logic behind it. It's just fucking fanaticism.
It's called NFL math.
Yes.
Have you ever experienced NFL math?
No, I haven't. Tell me all about it.
So Tom Brady, we would agree that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
I don't know how you argue that.
So Tom Brady's last game with the Patriots was against the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
Ryan Tannehill was the quarterback.
Right.
So Ryan Tannehill beat Tom Brady in his last game against the Titans, there in Foxborough. If Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman,
right?
Muhammad Ali's the champion. George Foreman beats him.
Right.
Who's the champion?
George Foreman.
Is it disputed?
No.
Tannehill beat Tom Brady, making him the greatest quarterback of all time. And because he's with the Titans, that makes the Titans the greatest dynasty of all time.
I love the spirit of your logic. I don't fucking agree with it, but I totally get it. As a Vikings fan, I have suffered beyond measure. I wore this for you, and you were just so fanatical about the Titans. I was so fucking impressed. He's like, yeah, they're going 16-1 this year. I'm like,
it's because we lost the first game. That's what
I totally get it.
Yeah, we lost the first game, so I figured, we've got to be optimistic and realistic in my mind. I'm irrational though.
Yeah, I think that was the first sign of just blind loyalty that I've seen in you. So I'm embracing it. I'm championing it. I've never wore a jersey on this podcast, and I wore this special for you.
I appreciate it.
You got it. So
where did the Vikings come from? Why did you choose the Vikings?
I love having another podcast host because we're going to go back and forth apparently. So I get it all the time. I've never been to Minnesota in my life. I've never been there. I want to go. I haven't been there. And it was the first NFL game I ever watched with Jimmy Kramer, Terry Allen, fucking Chris Dolman, Keith Millard. Oh, boys, I'm a fucking Vikings fan. Okay, never been to Minnesota. Hard fucking core. Like when they got Randy Moss, holy fuck. Thank you, Dallas Cowboys, by the way. Yes. So you're as fanatical about football as I am. I know you are.
I love it. I think the reason why I love football, and I don't think I've ever said this before, is because my brother is a really big fan, and my brother's my hero, and I knew it was a connection point between him and I. So it was a way to be able to have a conversation with him where he was able to run, like, because he was a Rams fan. He knows football. He was a quarterback. My brother was a phenomenal athlete. And for me, I wasn't a phenomenal athlete. So I fell in love with the NFL, not because I loved NFL, but because I loved my brother and I needed a connection point.
That's incredible.
He's never heard that either.
Really? Get out.
Yeah.
This is the stuff. So, Kelly, what is the one thing like about podcasting that you love? I'm just curious.
Well, it's hard to choose one thing, but I think that it's never about what you did last time. Like
Okay.
it literally, it's for me, it's like a sport. It's what have you done for me lately? You could be have a phenomenal episode and connect with a guest, and then you get on, and I mean, the vibe is completely different.
Okay.
And I take that. For me, I take it hard. Not in a bad way, like beating up on myself, but I just want to be better. So I like the iteration of it. I like, one time laughing, but then taking the laughter and the joking into the next one, and it doesn't work because the person's not in that place. And then I have to realize that podcasting for me is the ultimate test and exercise in being present. If not, your audience knows.
It's interesting that you say that because it is so hard. It is so hard. You would think that you sit there as a host and you listen, but you have to be present all the time. Otherwise, you're going to like blank out into outer space and then everybody can see you're fucking lost 100%. So that's great. So you're on like 300, you're 300 plus. What was the last episode with the 327?
It was today, right before we came.
Yeah.
So it's 311 right now.
311.
Yeah, 311. Yeah.
Okay. So having done, when did you start like your first episode? Do you remember the first episode?
Yeah, it was called All Things Hip Hop.
All things, because you're a huge hip hop fan.
That's what I thought the podcast was going to be. I was going to talk
Really?
to all these people, and then I was going to, whether they liked hip hop or not, I was going to relate it back to hip hop because there's a lyric by Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
And she says, after all my logic and my theory, I add a MFer so you ignorant brothers hear me. Think of that.
Oh, that
Okay.
I'm sitting in that for a minute.
And so what she was saying, and to me, was I'm going to add all this logic and theory, which will go over the top of your head. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the vocabulary and vernacular that you speak. And then you're going to connect with all my logic and my theory. And Lauryn Hill was, I think she's still one of the greatest MCs of all time. But Black Thought is, which that I've been reaching out to Black Thought from the Roots. I've been reaching out to him for probably 2 weeks now because his book is out, The Upcycled Self, which you need to go and get. If anybody, you need to get it. It's amazing. But I want him on the podcast because get this. He is my best friend, Will, from 4th grade. We're still best friends. We still hang out. It's his favorite MC of all time.
Okay.
So I'm going after him to get him on the podcast because my friend will poop his pants if Black Thought is on my podcast. And so I use the podcast to connect to so many people. Like I do it for my kids. I do it for my brother. I do it for my wife, people that they love. I want them to be, to have guests on my podcast. And then that way they become human.
I fucking love it. What was the one thing? It's hilarious that you say that because I told you, I'm like, hey, buddy, I know someone that knows you. I'm so excited to have you. He's literally going to sign his book.
Cynthia.
For Cynthia.
Cynthia, I love you. Thank you so much. You made me look cooler than I am. I appreciate it too.
And by the way, she's going to blow her fucking mind that you said that on the podcast. and that's, Kelly, what is it that makes you just want to make an impact every day? That's what I've been wanting to ask you since you said yes. Like, what is it that drives you so much to want to make an impact on people's lives every day?
I think it's different things, different days. Like today I had a rough morning and
Really?
I don't know what it was.
Okay.
It was just the vibe was off. I went to do a podcast and it was a great guy. His name is Justin Prince, phenomenal dude. And some of the tech stuff wasn't working. And just all day, the vibe was a little bit off. And then what God revealed to me today was like, I wanted to show you that because I want you to be present. I don't want you to come with a presentation. When you get to speak with Oli today, I don't want you to come with a presentation. I don't want you to come with something canned. I want you to be completely present with him, and that's going to honor him. And so for me, it's different points. I think that for me, a person asked me the other day as far as when do you make the most impact? And I said, when I'm not focused on making an impact. When I'm just able to just be myself, then that's when things work. And I said to a woman named Marie the other day, I was talking to her, and she said, or I said to her, every time I'm looking for the door, none of them are open and they don't even exist. And then when I'm not looking for the door, but I'm connecting with the people in front of me that are right there, every door in the world opens up. But here's the crazy thing. So once I walk through one of those doors, as a human, I instantly start looking for other doors, which closes all of them. So the hard thing is when the opportunity comes and you're so thankful in the opportunity, don't focus on the opportunity that's coming next. Focus on being thankful and grateful where you are at that particular point. But I struggle with it every single day. I start looking for the doors, they close. I stop looking for the doors, they open. I walk in the door that's open and I instantly start looking for other doors, which closes them all.
Right. How do you convey that? I mean, how old are your kids?
12 and 14.
And how do you convey that to them as a parent? I'm curious.
I thought, Oli, it would be through teaching them. Okay. Sit down, teach them a lesson.
Right?
This is it don't work. I think it's by living it. My daughter said to me the other day, which touched my heart. She said, I think it's really cool. And me and my friends talk about it. We think it's really cool what you do. And I was like, well, what do I do? And she said that you do what you love. And not many of my parents do that. And I remember when she was like 5, my daughter said to me, I wanted to ask her. I asked her, I said, what does daddy do? Because I wanted to hear, you're a business owner, you're an author, you speak, you do all these things. And she looked at me and she was like, she was playing Legos. She looked up and she's like, you make people happy, daddy. And then went right back to playing. The simplicity, right? And I think the biggest thing that I thought as a parent, which I understand now that wasn't correct, was that I was going to teach them these lessons. But what I realized is that my pop said, the difference between, he said, boy, you know the difference between a video camera and a child? And I was like, what? He said, a child doesn't have a stop, rewind, and delete button.
Your dad was pretty wise.
And so I find that most of the time they're watching, but they're not watching when I want them to watch. Yeah. They're watching when I lose my cool on the AT&T lady because she put me on hold 15 times. And then I explode in the other room and then apologize to them afterwards. They're seeing that and I can't erase it. Doesn't mean I've made it better. I still yell at them. but I think that's it.
Yeah, it's really hit me home. How you do one thing is how you do everything. It's been the meaning is changing for me every day. How you do one thing is how you do everything. That 5-year-old, your daughter, I watched that on a short. So I knew that. And what an incredible moment to share with one of your kids when they're like, you go above and beyond. And Kelly, it's not the author. It's not you being a successful CEO, having all these people that sing your accolades about what an incredible human being you are. It's that you genuine, it's authentic, it's real. This isn't like you're not playing a role on social media. What you see is what you get. And that's so rare in this world that it's authenticity to its core. Like, how can people not want to be around you is what's funny to me.
Well, I appreciate that.
You earned that though. Like you live it. It's not, it is, that's what blows me away. And that's how come like we go back and forth on the videos. I'm like, Man, I thought I was good at connecting with people. Like fucking Kelly Cardenas is at a different level with connecting. Where does that, is it your parents? Like, where does that come from? Like your gift for connection?
I think my parents, I mean, they gave me permission very early just to try stuff, you know? And I think they never told me this, but I think that they realized that I wasn't that good at the normal stuff.
Okay.
So they encouraged me to be myself. Now, I would like to think that my parents were just so wise, and they were, but I had a brother who was phenomenal at sports. I had another brother who is incredibly intelligent. Both of them are super intelligent. One's a doctor, one's a lawyer. And they always just encouraged me not to compare myself to the other ones. And that, the connectivity, I think, though, goes back to, you were there in Vegas when I spoke about it.
Yeah.
There's a superpower that I believe that I was granted and gifted in being a military brat. And most military people, I don't think, understand this part. And I was talking with my friend Will, because my friend Will, his dad was in the military. He was a military brat too. I had to move every 2.5 to 3 years to a new residence, meaning that I had to be a new kid in a new neighborhood, meaning that I had to connect with different types of people. Plus, living on a military base, I had a friend who was Black and Japanese, one that was German and white. I had Mexican and white, Black and Mexican. You had every race, creed, color, culture, and you had to connect with them. But they were all just people. And when you think about your neighborhood right now, most likely, Oli, where you live, it's not super diverse. It's a lot of people who are very similar to you, whether it be economically or that they look like you.
Yeah.
And when you choose a neighborhood, generally you choose based off of what you feel comfortable with. But in the military, it's not like that. You're forced into worlds all over the place. You have to learn food. If you know, you have Filipino friends, you need to know about lumpia, ponset. You need to know about adobo. If you have Japanese friends, you need to know about the different types. Have Korean friends, you need to know about kimchi. And when you commune with them on food, it's the first connector. Language, second connector. And then all the rest starts to flow. And that's a superpower that I believe that I was gifted. But it came wrapped in a package that was, for most people, upheaval. Have to move every 2 years. Have to be the new kid. What do you don't get really settled. You don't decorate your room. But I think it was also the outlook of my two parents, where it was like, we may not have exactly what we want, but we have what we need, and we cover it with love and prayer.
And have you? I mean, your faith is extremely strong.
Thank you.
Did you grow up that way? Like, I went to the church for the first time this year in my life.
Yeah.
It was an incredible experience. So, and I really never understood religion. Like, I'm like, and then walking through those doors and experiencing spiritualism, it really knocked me off my socks. And you speak about it a lot. I was just reading some of your book and the spirituality that you hold, and you speak to it like, yeah, God and you have a purpose together. What is that purpose?
Well, he gave me Romans 9:17 when I was 1997, so I was 22 years old. And he gave me Romans 9:17 that said, I put Pharaoh in this place, that when Pharaoh spoke, then the people would listen. When they listened, they'd hear God's voice and not Pharaoh's. And I was like, wow, God's telling me I'm going to speak. And when I speak, then people are going to hear his voice, and it's not going to be mine. Cool, God. But then he followed it up with a verse about King Herod Agrippa, that this king was a mighty king, and the people shouted, oh, that's not the voice of a man, it's the voice of a God. And it sounded good to him, but he didn't say anything, just sounded good. And God struck him dead right then, because he wouldn't allow anyone else to have his glory. And I was like, God, how are you playing with me like that? First of all, you give me this vision of, wow, I'm going to speak and people have to listen. And when they listen, they hear your voice. So romantic. And then he was like, and if you ever get to the point where you think that it's you, I'm going to take it all away. And that's been my relationship with God. It hasn't ever been like a, God, like this big figure. It's been like you and me, my buddy, and I argue with him a lot. Seriously. Like,
interesting.
Because there's
talk about that.
There's
like,
places
what do you mean
that
by that?
Well, there's places that I want it to happen, and it don't happen on my time.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating sometimes. Sometimes I see, I'll watch and I'll be like, man, and this is how I talk to him, man, I put in a lot of work. You told me to do these things. I'm doing these things. Why didn't you give me what you told me you were going to give me?
Yeah.
And that was permission that I got from my dad one time when he yelled at God, and I thought he was going to get struck by lightning. And then I was like, I don't want to stand by you right now. And he's like, why? And he said, son, God wants to have a relationship with you. And I got in trouble early on in my career because I was educating, and they said, do this presentation. They said, I want you to refer to a couple of different books that you read and, tell a story.
Okay.
So the only book that I was reading at the time was the Bible.
Okay.
Not from a spiritual side. That's the only book that I read.
Right.
And so I told a story out the Bible, and the lady was like, you can't bring church up in this place. That is awful. And just reamed me. And I was like, but if I was to talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people, because I was reading Stephen Covey, everyone would have been okay.
Yeah.
But so that it hasn't ever been from you need to do this or you need to do that. It's just been a personal relationship that I think people will say, like, how can you speak about that in a public setting? I'm not trying to convert anybody.
Exactly.
I'm just sharing my experience. And, so that's been, but I think the freedom comes from literally just studying it. Like if I had you listen to the Rolling Stones for the next 6 months every single day, what would you be singing?
Right.
Right. And so that's, for me, it hasn't come from a side of like, I'm going to learn it so I can just show everybody and then I'm going to convert them. No, it goes back to the impact part. When I'm making the most impact, I have no focus on it at all. Right. I'm just being right here, right now. And that's what Cole and I were talking about on the way here. He said, how do you prepare for something like this? And I said, honestly, I just want to be here. Because my dad told me that today I've prepared 48 and a half years to be sitting here with you today. So if I tell the truth, right, to tell the truth about the stories that I've lived, I don't really have to script anything.
Right. Do you want to give a lesson on going on a podcast? Like, you and I can record this together. And that was a phenomenal question by Cole. I do want to, like, we'll talk about that. Yeah. I do want to talk about Cole. Like, I think I'm going to share a story with you.
Yeah.
This is about my oldest son.
Uh-huh.
Are you one of 3 boys? How many?
3 boys, yes. So
okay.
My oldest brother was born as my mom's brother. My mom's mom died when she was 13 years old. Right. So my oldest brother was 1. So that was my mom's brother.
Okay.
When he was sophomore or junior in high school, he left his home and moved in with us. And my mom became his mom and my dad became his dad. So he came into our house at that time. But I don't look at him as my uncle. He's my brother.
Right.
So.
Right. So are you the middle?
I'm the baby.
You are the baby.
Yeah,
okay. I was going to say, I don't know what it is about you babies, but my Trevor, my youngest.
Oh yeah.
What a badass.
I don't know about a badass. I got the name brand cereal. I got, my brother's like, come on, bro. You don't see it. You don't see what you got. One year, my parents got me like a racetrack, a Nintendo, and we didn't have that much money, but it was a ghetto racetrack, but it was still a racetrack, like the little trigger thing. And I got the Nintendo. I got a couple games, and my brother got underwear, socks, and a brush. He still, to this day, I think it's the one thing that maybe he holds a little unforgiveness for, but he was like, underwear, socks, and a brush for Christmas? Come on. It's not about people say it's not about the gift, it's about the thought. It's like, then what the hell were you thinking? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think if I were him, it would be about the gift. That's a one-sided on Kelly. I'm on your brother's side on that one. I don't know what you did to bribe your parents, but winning.
Yeah.
So my 17-year-old, I've been thinking about like, there are moments that you have as a parent, you're like, hey, I'm just not doing this parenting thing the way it needs to be done. You reflect on that. Yeah. And for the past 12 months, I'm like, I'm going to do this shit differently. So I'm talking to my oldest and I want to put them around young men that are successful, that have done hard things and are articulate about communicating to it. Like they're just being themselves. Like, hey, this is the stupid shit that I did. Like, probably not a good idea for you to do it. And for them to see, not just from their dad, you said they observe. I agree with you. They need to observe young men that are doing hard things. So you brought up Cole. I'm like, fucking, I love this guy. That's exactly what I'm doing. So I had a fireman on the podcast. Mm-hmm. He's a wealth advisor now. I'm trying to help him out. He's a young man. He's growing, transitioning from firefighter to wealth advisor.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Amazing.
My oldest son turns around to me a weekend ago and says, hey, Dad, I want to be a firefighter. He's 17, senior. I'm like, could you imagine like how proud I am? I'm fucking losing my shit. I'm so proud. So I send a video connecting the both of them. Max is so kind. Like he replies to my son right away, says, yeah. I'm like, hey, I'll take you guys out to lunch. Basically what you're doing with Cole, so how come you're doing that for a young man like Cole? Why? How come that even fucking matters for you?
I had a lot of people do it for me, Cole and I connected at a live podcast. And, I was just about to be interviewed and he starts telling me his story. It's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the things that he went through in his life and some of the things that, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this because, but I'm going to say it and then he can erase it if he wants to.
Yeah.
But some of the things he went through in his life, I mean, the challenges, I got a visual. He was telling me about a story where, his, I think it was a stepdad or mom's boyfriend or whatever. They're playing cards, him and his buddies, and he's in his room and the guy comes into the room. I'm paraphrasing, comes into the room and is pretty lit up and wants to fight Cole. And he's a young kid and he gets him down and, is strangling him and says, I'm going to kill you. And I'm thinking like, I'm about to be interviewed. They don't need to interview me. They need to interview this kid. And he's telling me about all these things that he's gone through. And I was like, oh man, he's probably 27, 28, and he's 21 years old. And, so we connected and, I remember I gave my phone number out to a bunch of people. And, for me, seeing different things helped me, right? It wasn't things that were forced upon me. It was things that I chose. But last week I saw him in church. He was sitting right behind me and I just looked over and, we said hello and we started talking a little bit and then we got to pray together and God just put it on my heart. He was like, you got an opportunity to go with Oli. And I know how powerful Oli is. I know how powerful Shane is. And he's in the production space as far as social media and stuff. And I thought, how awesome would it be for him to meet Oli? Because literally a meeting with you and a meeting with Shane could literally change his life. Or it could go really bad and it suck and whatever. At least I get a ride together and we get to hang out. But I think there's more that each person can do to just connect with someone a little bit younger. But they have to be ready for it, right? This is what I said to him. And I said, I've got this opportunity, but you're going to have to do something. And he was like, what is it? I said, you're going to have to text me. I'm not going to remember. You're going to have to text me. And if you don't text me, you're not going to go. Because I wanted to see if there was buy-in. And he texted me, hey man, so great to see you. I'm excited to go to Escondido. And I was like, I'm thinking, man, and then I saw his eyes when we walked in the room. This is his world. He's a social media expert. He builds brands. He helps people to be able to tell their stories. And who better than a 21-year-old who has his finger on the pulse to be able to take your brand and explode your brand. And then he walks in and sees you guys' studio, sees what is happening here. I mean, for me, that's the greatest payoff in the world.
There's so much in there that I don't even know where to start. It's like you stepped up and you did your part. He had to participate. That wasn't a choice. And I think that's what blows my mind sometimes is that there are doors open. You have to participate and actually walk through them. Otherwise, they will shut.
And you always have to be ready, right? This was I had such a challenge, and this is where I failed a lot, is there's systems that I have that literally, like, it's surefire, 100%, you will succeed.
Okay.
And what I used to do is I used to take them, and I to say I had them in my hand, and I'd take them in my hand, and I would try and stuff them down your throat, but your mouth would be closed. And I'd be like, well, that's fine. I could just hit your chin with my elbow, open your mouth up, stuff it in your mouth, and then push it down your throat. And then I realized, my wife said, people won't hear what you say. They won't see what you do. They'll only hear where they are at. And until you understand where they're at, you won't know what to deliver to them. So it goes back to, how can I prepare for something like this? I can't walk in and say, well, Oli is going to say this. And Oli is going to be outside with 2 friends that I'm going to meet. And, oh, wow, they happen to be in an audience in Las Vegas that I hosted an event for. You can't make that stuff up. And the more and more, this is a frustrating thing for me, the more and more I try and make things up and recreate what was in the past, I mess it up, because this moment has to be right now. It has to be. And it doesn't mean that we don't have practices and there's rituals and all those things, but the greatest things that have ever happened to me are a meeting. How do we meet? In the back of the room at a convention. And you weren't there to meet me. I wasn't there to meet you.
Right.
But I would say probably one of the greatest things that came out of that convention for me was meeting you and having a friendship with you. Right. And so, but you can't do that if I go in with all my agenda. My wife says it like this: stick to the plan, but go with the flow.
Yeah. I mean, that is hot. That is a hot comment. And it's true. Like, when you talked about forcing things, it's like, I've had that conversation with God this year. I have, like, alone, out on a walk. And I'm like, I'm doing right. I'm being a good person. I'm being a good man.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing good, but I wasn't a good man. Mm-hmm. I think that's the toughest thing you have to, as a man, tell yourself, like, I'm not living my purpose. I'm not living the person I want to be. And the change starts within. Everything starts within. And it's like, now I think to myself, like, I have all these goals. I'm doing the right things. How come things aren't falling into place? Then I'm like, oh, if it's fucking easy, then it wouldn't be hard. Oh, that's the awakening I've had. Like, the more I've tried to force stuff, things happen when they're supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. There's no guarantee of the timeline. There's just guarantee of the hard work, the impact, and it's all about ROI for me. I heard this on Jeff Finster's podcast, and the guy, owner of Everbowl. He's awesome. Talk about a great thought leader.
Oh, he's a great guy.
And somebody on his podcast said, hey, I'm all about the ROI every day. Return on impact. I'm making ROI shirts. You'll get one. Like, that's what community is all about to me now. Like, I know things are hard. I'll just make an impact on one person's day today. I'll do right by one person. And eventually that, I'm hoping that builds itself out, and we can actually start changing our communities one person at a time. How do you approach, like, what's happening in community? There's a lot of negative. So what do you do every day to impact lives? How do you wake up and saying, hey, this is what because you're one of the most positive people, I would say, seriously.
Thank you.
It takes work, though, because that's not easy. Every morning I wake up and sometimes shit goes wrong, and I'm like, nope, I'm not starting my day like this. Yeah. This is not what I'm going to do. So how do you, like, keep yourself mentally healthy to be able to show up your very best every single day?
I have a grateful wife. I have a beautiful wife and a grateful wife. I think that's a big one. I grabbed her when I was right before I got in the car to come out this way to the studio. I grabbed her and I said, I told you earlier, like, my vibe was off this morning. Yeah. And I grabbed her and I said, I just need some of you right now. And I gave her a hug, and she spoke life to me, and to have people around you that speak life to you, and speaking life is just, it's specific. It has to be specific. You have to use the person's name. And when I say it again, it sounds redundant, but you have to be specific. There's so many people that give empty compliments. Empty compliment is, you're awesome. You're always awesome. You always brighten the day. That doesn't mean anything at all. That's like you just giving me a gift and it has nothing in it. But when you say, when we were in Vegas in the back of the room, I was having a really tough time in my marriage, and you really spoke life in saying that one thing about your wife and how you could go home and write her a letter. Now it just made it personal. And once it becomes personal, that's a massive one. So for me in the morning, back to your question is, I had a guy tell me that he stopped listening to all the stuff that I said or the videos that I did. And I was like, oh, okay. Why?
Nice.
And he said, I stopped listening to it because you're way too positive and that's not the way my life is.
Okay.
And he said, if you live that type of life, I don't really relate to you. And I said, I want you to know though, that my life, my pop said it like this. He said, don't let the smooth taste fool you. I'm smiling on camera. But I'm smiling on camera, like you said, because of a choice. It's not because I haven't gone through, I lost both my parents in the last 4 or 5 years, 6 or 7 relatives. I was on a podcast the other day and they were like, well, you lost both your parents. How's it feel to be an orphan? I was like, I never heard that. Like, you just made me aware. So I'm not hugely self-aware, right? And so I don't turn around and take stock of like, how are people seeing me? I've just was really encouraged early on. And so waking up, for me, it would be work for me to be on the negative side of it. I'd really have to work at it. And I go to those places, but I don't let myself stay in that place for very long. But there's freak out moments, man. Like, all the time, like transition from, we owned salons all over the country and stuff. And then we made the decision at the high point of them just to sell them and walk away. And, it's 30 years of identity in one industry. And then, moving into a different industry, sometimes that can play with you a little bit. And so you go through highs, you go through lows. I've learned that my mountaintops will be very narrow and very tiny, but the mountaintop is only built for the valley that I get to choose to go and rest in. And that was a big epiphany for me. And God let me know that the valley is dark and it's nasty, but it's meant for rest. But when you get to the mountaintop, you get to choose where you go, or else you go there. You go to the one that was kind of, is just forced upon you. And I would much rather choose where I rest. So when I get to the mountaintop, I'm looking like, hey, I know I'm going down. I know I'm about to go down, but I'll rest so I can climb the next mountain.
And what is the next mountain? I'm curious. So you
Black Thought. That's the one. Tariq Trotter. I want Tariq Trotter on the podcast. If you're out there, Tariq Trotter, I love your book, The Upcycled Self. My best friend in the world, his name is Will Simmons. Grew up since we were in 4th grade, and we always talked about, we used to sign our name. When we were in 6th grade, we used to sign our signature for like hours. And we'd say, someday, if we get famous enough, someone wants our signature, we'll be ready. And we grew up in a military family. And we always said, someday, someday, someday. And it's not that I'm looking for the shine or the whatever it is. What I want to do is see the look on my friend's face from 4th grade that we grew up together when I have you, Tariq Trotter, on the podcast and my friend freaks out, poops his pants. And then we realize that you're just a person just like him and I, and he's actually more important in my life than you are, Tariq Trotter, but I'd love to have you on the podcast.
Ooh. Okay, so is Will going to be in, are you going to invite him over? He's going to be.
He doesn't know. Okay. Will doesn't know that I'm doing this right now.
I think on that day, you just come into the studio and interview him.
Oh, it would be amazing.
That would be hot.
Most likely with him, with Tariq Trotter, with Black Thought, it's most likely going to be a remote one. But it was the same thing with Eddie George, right?
I know.
And so Eddie George, I reached out to Eddie George on Instagram for 3.5 years.
Really? Okay, that took that long? I thought you had a connection with Eddie George.
No, it was my connection. I texted him and videoed him every day for almost 3.5 years. And he finally got sick of me and he was like, I guess I'll give this dude a shot. And
it took you 3.5 fucking years to get Eddie George?
Yeah, I'm working.
I love it.
Well, I'm working right now. I'm working on Jerry Rice. I'm working on Rakim. I'm a huge hip hop fan. Rakim, De La Soul. And Some people are like, really? You know them? No, not yet.
Not yet.
But somebody might hear this, see this, or maybe they won't. But that's what I really I want to create that spirit in every single person that says, like, you know, I want to meet so-and-so. There's a chance. You know, I feel like Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. And with Eddie, it was, and here's how it comes. 3.5 years, I finally get an Instagram message back. And it's from him. Like you could tell in the way he typed, it was from him. I typed like this. It was like this. It's from him. And I'm freaking out, but I'm also in Park City, Oli. So I'm in Park City at our house there, and I didn't take all my equipment on purpose. I don't have anything. I don't have a mic, don't have anything.
Oh, so he wants you to do it when?
He wanted me to do it, and he's like, this is the window that we have, because I'm a coach, a college coach, and the season's just about to start. So this is the window. But we were in Park City. So I'm like, I say to my wife, I was like, I think I'm going to push him off. She's like, you don't push off an opportunity like that. Make it happen. I said, I don't have my equipment. I don't have anything. But you know who I did have? A guy named Eric Allen. Eric Allen is a podcaster.
Okay.
I don't use StreamYard. He does. I called him. He gave me his login. He set me up with his stuff. And I recorded it on StreamYard, the only podcast I've ever done on StreamYard. And he set me up that way. And I did it on my wife's computer with no microphone, no nothing. But it was the opportunity that came wrapped in something that I didn't actually love. But what it told me is that's how life is going to be. The thing that you desire and that you wish for is not going to come wrapped in a pretty bow. It's going to come nasty, dirty, when you're not ready, when you're tired. And guess what happened with Eddie George too? So I interview him.
Yeah.
And I never use StreamYard. Well, with StreamYard, you have to wait until it's fully uploaded till they get off the broadcast.
Okay.
If you don't, it doesn't download in high quality. So if you watch that podcast, I got off beforehand. And I was freaking out. Oh my gosh, it's going to be in bad quality, all this stuff. And I called my brother and I was down. He's like, can you believe it? I've been an Oilers fan since I was 6. Eddie George is one of the greatest running backs that's ever lived. And he's on my team.
Ohio State, right?
Ohio State, Heisman Trophy winner. And just as a Oiler, legendary. But here I am complaining about the resolution of video. And my brother was like, your perspective is off, bro. You just sat down with someone who you've been working to get for 3.5 years. Who cares if it's like projector quality from 1985? You got to do it. And so that was the perspective shift. But again, as a human being, a lot of times I complain about the blessings that God gives me.
3.5 years. I love it. That is a fucking great story. I am Michael Jordan. I'm coming, baby. 4.5 years, baby. You tell me. No, it's not Michael Jordan. I actually want to interview Alex Hermosi.
Yeah.
So Hermosi, come on, man. We're going to have you on.
I want Cory Asbury too. Cory Asbury is a Christian singer, and I believe I'm saying it right. Am I saying it right, Cole? Cory Asbury, he sings a song that my mom, it was my mom's song. And I've reached out to him multiple times, but I'm going to continue on. But that song really got me through my mom's death. And every time that I hear the song, it's about the 99, that God left the 99 to go get the one sheep. So he had 100 sheep, one left, and he left the 99 to go get the one. And that was something that meant a lot to me. And I would love to tell him that he really impacted a whole family and generations based off his just one song. But Cory Asbury is another one that I want. So.
I think before you leave the studio today, we're going to be recording a video for 2 individual people. I'm not joking with you. Things only happen. Kelly, you know what I've learned about people that have success in life, that work bust their asses to have success in life? You'd be shocked at how many of them are willing to give you their time as long as you show up and you send the text message,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be present
Yeah.
and active on you. You got to do your part. They're not going to do it for you. And that's shocking. And kudos to you on your perseverance. Like, I wasn't giving up on you. No matter how many, if you want something, go fucking get it.
Yeah.
Go get it. Go do all the work that you need to. Life is about problem solving. And what an amazing thing. You're like, I had to gain perspective. The video call. You fucking just interviewed Eddie fucking Jard. Okay.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when he told you the story about walking into Michael Jordan's that was one of my favorite, like, what a badass fucking story. Can you share that? It is the coolest thing.
Oh, I've asked him a true Hollywood story or NFL story because I'm a huge fan of Dave Chappelle. And Dave Chappelle said, when Charlie Murphy said true Hollywood stories, and he told about, Prince playing, serving pancakes and playing basketball. And I asked Eddie that, and he said, well, I was at Michael Jordan's 50, I think it was his 40th birthday or somewhere around, whatever birthday it was.
Yeah.
And he said he got invited up to his suite, and he goes up there and he has a bottle of champagne that he thought he was going to impress. He walks in and there was just plethora of gifts. He said there was millions of dollars in cash on the table that they were gambling with. There's Jay-Z, Beyonce. He said Charles Oakley was cooking soul food in the kitchen. His mind is blown. And, to experience that, have that story, but him talking about it, and I'm sitting in my living room of my house recording this, and again, bad quality.
Right. Steamy art.
but my son is in his room, and he's an Oilers fan too, because I'm an Oilers fan, and I'm talking to Eddie George, and then at the end of the podcast, you heard it, he gives advice to my kids by name, Maddox and McKenna. This is Eddie George. I'm going to tell you this about life. And that's the whole reason why I started the podcast, is imagine my kids right now, they have 311 episodes of some of the most iconic people in the world at their given craft that are giving advice to my kids. They have that many masterclasses. Do they listen to them right now? Do they watch them? Maybe, but they'll have them.
It's going to live forever.
Or somebody else's kids, right? Is gonna be able to have that. But that experience, honestly, like when he talked about that, I was dying. I mean,
what I connected with? He's like, they asked me to play, and I'm like, no, thank you. That's too. I don't belong. Like he said, I don't belong at that table. This is fucking Eddie George, Heisman Trophy. Like, we're not talking about no. Yeah. I think he had 2,000 yards in a season.
Well, he was a little under 2,000 yards, but there was only 3 running backs that have ever started every single game of their career and rushed for over 10,000 yards. That's Jim Brown, him, and there's one other. I mean, you're in that company, and he excluded himself from that table because he was like, no, these guys are playing at a level. I mean, they had so much money on the table that he was like, I ain't playing at that level.
I mean, and that's what like hit me home. It's even though when you achieve success, like, I don't know, how much further can you go up than Eddie George? You know what I mean? In that sport. And he's like, I couldn't sit at that table. That says to me, hey, we're all working on that next level. No matter how much you achieve success, like there's always somebody that's doing it better that you could pick something up and learn from. Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh, hey, I'm bitter that these people, and it was like, man, I'm in a fucking room with Michael Jordan, Jay-Z and Beyonce. I'll be like he went into fan mode, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what was mind blowing, is the fan mode. The vibe. The vibe. I'm really, I've started reading it, and I totally get it. Like, what is it that you love about this book? What do you love about this book?
Well, I think it was the biggest thing was that I could get behind it.
Okay.
Because everyone told me that you have to pick something, you have to only talk about that thing, you have to stay in that lane. And I never really had a lane. There was some times where I would wake up and I cycle, not all the time, but I do, like ride my bike. I wouldn't say that I'm a cyclist. There's sometimes that I go and surf. I can't call it surf, and splash around in the water. I wouldn't say that I'm a surfer, right? And so
you and I, we can go splash together.
There's all these different things. And, with this, what I realized was really, and it says it on the book cover, the missing ingredient that changes everything, right? And so what is the difference between you buying a product, not buying a product? It's the way you feel.
Yeah.
And what is that? That's the vibe.
The vibe.
You walk up, you meet somebody, and they have everything to offer you, everything, the greatest, but you ain't feeling them. Their vibe is off. Your offering could be the greatest offering with the greatest price and the greatest upside, but the people don't like you because the way that you make them feel. The vibe is off. So once I locked into that part, I realized that that was the power. And the original book that I wrote, and it's so funny because it's the vibe. The original one was the 6 indicators for business and life. Now, okay, exactly. Okay.
I wouldn't feel your vibe on that.
Got it. The 6 indicators for business and life were culture, vibe, process and procedure, productivity, innovation, the ability to adapt immediately. Okay. I realized that the power in that book was the vibe. It was the way that people felt. I took the vibe and I said, okay, the vibe is the one that powers the culture, powers the process and procedure, powers the productivity, powers the innovation, powers the ability to adapt immediately. And it's the way that people feel around you. And so that became the vibe. And then I started to look into it and started to dig deep, right? You go deep. It's like, okay, your heart set, which is your beliefs.
Yeah.
Determines your mindset, which is your intentions, which determines your skill set, which is your actions. But most people, and I do it in a triangle because the foundation is the heart set, the beliefs. The side of the triangle is the intentions or your mindset. And the top of the triangle, which is the smallest little real estate, is the skill set. But most people focus on the skill set. What should I do? Actionable items that I could do tomorrow. Well, if your mind isn't in the right place, it doesn't matter what actions you take. And if your heart isn't in the right place, it doesn't matter where your mind's at. And if we can work on that foundational, right? So we build our heart set, our belief system, we build our mindset, which is our intentions, and that builds our skill set. You put them all in line, it creates an irresistible vibe that people they can't explain why they want to be around. And so that congruency was something that my parents taught me from a very, very early age, but I didn't know that they were teaching me. They were showing me, they were living it. So my parents' heart set, their mindset, and their skill set, they were in line. And people wanted to be around our house, not because we had the most money, but they wanted to be around the home because of the way that they felt when they walked away from it. And the way that they feel, and then you make people feel, is your vibe.
Your brother's the same way?
My brother is a different vibe, but I tell you, like, my brother's an attorney. He's the least attorney that you'll ever meet in your life.
Okay.
You want to be around him.
Right.
He makes you feel better about yourself. He called me. I talked to him today. I get on the phone. He's a ray of sunshine. He encourages me, tells me he's proud of me. So he lifts me up. When I walk away, I feel like I'm on top of the world. When I was crying a couple years ago in the parking lot of Ralph's right down the street from my house because all the businesses had got shut down and we were in the pandemic time, and tears are flowing. I don't know how I'm going to provide for my family, but I got this vision that I need a Rodecaster Pro and 2 microphones. And I'm sitting in the parking lot. I can't even buy groceries.
This is you?
This is me. So I can't even buy groceries at the time. I'm crying, but I got this thought, oh my gosh, I need this Rodecaster Pro because this is what's going to change things for me. And I call my brother and I'm like, Rob, I don't know what to do, man. I really have this on my heart that I want to buy this Rodecaster Pro. But at the time it was like $800 or $900, the package or whatever it was. And he was like, don't feel bad about doing that, but just hold on, man. Just hold on. And so I was like, I went into the store and I bought whatever I could at the time because we didn't have, didn't have that much money. And I bought what I could. I came back out and he had sent me a text message with a picture of the Rodecaster Pro on a receipt. And he said, it's on its way. And he believed. And here was this crazy idea that I had in starting a podcast and moving forward. And this is what I needed. And I'm going to spend money at the time that I didn't have. And I don't even have money for food at the time. And so that part, his vibe is protection, is hero, is, and I think about it to this day, like, and I mean, he was always that protector. He always made sure that I was okay. So different vibe, but everyone wants to be around him.
And I think that's when you talk about everyone wants to be around you. People say it all the time. You attract how you live, in a sense. The vibes that you give out, the energy that you give out. Never understood what that meant. Never clicked. Never clicked of how many the wrong people I attracted to myself, and it was what I was putting out, the wrong vibe, the wrong energy. And it's mind-blowing to me. Reading that book, actually, I love the name of the book. I don't know if I would have bought it had you named it that. You just don't connect with it. There's no, and I think storytelling, there's so many incredible stories. Like, I'm shocked what you just told me. No idea. Like that, and that's incredible. That was 2020, March.
Yeah, March, April, somewhere like March, April. And when he texted me, it was like, I just almost fell out. I couldn't drive because he was providing, he was making sure that I was okay. And, I think about it, and some people watching or listening could think, well, I mean, it's not that much. He could have done it and stuff like that. But he stepped out and he did that little thing. It was a huge thing in my life at that time, but it was a little thing to him. It didn't mean that much to him. Him and his wife were like, hey, we want to do this and we want to bless you. But I think every single person has the ability to do that. And it doesn't have to be a material thing. It could be a call. It could be, Oli, let me ask you this. In the last 2 weeks, how many times have you heard something specific that someone else was proud of you about?
Shane last week. He genuinely just had a moment with me, exactly what I needed to hear. And I was so grateful because it wasn't, last week was probably one of the toughest weeks of my life. And I don't know whether he felt it. And it wasn't that I was being negative. It was just, I was having a tough week and he just recognized it and was able to just give me a few words that were so necessary. And then this week has been completely different in the sense that, like, the vibes that I'm putting out, like, everything did not go my way last week. And it still didn't go this week, but I'm not attaching a negative vibe to it. I'm bringing the right energy, the right enthusiasm that this is the way things are meant to be. I'm going to embrace them, and I'm going to make sure that I show up for the next person that I'm going to come across. And that's fucking joy.
Yeah.
It's happiness. And I think, the reason why I'm such a huge fucking fan of yours is because I think in a world of negativity where it's so easy to break everything down in our lives and focus our energy and our vibe on the wrong thing, it's so much harder to go opposite direction. It takes so much work for some people. I'd much rather just put the right things out there and do it with a smile and fucking watch what happens. It's incredible. I think the more optimistic I am in life and doing things for the right reasons, not with the wrong intentions, it's unbelievable what can happen.
I think, when you truly test your heart, right? So when you test your heart,
amen.
And that's a hard thing because there could be like, no, I'm doing it for the right. I have conversations with like this with God a lot of times, like, God, if you'll just bless me here, I'll be able to expand your kingdom. He's like, I don't need you to expand anything. And because he knows my heart, I'm not asking him for a blessing so I can go bless other people. I'm asking for a selfish reason. And I do that as I'm a human being.
Yeah.
And I think that when we test our heart, like you can't fool God. You can't. And when your heart, your mind, and your skills are in line, like literally it creates a situation where you can transition and shift. A lot of times people shift, or the big word during the pandemic was pivot. But some people pivoted from one business to another, and then that business didn't work out. And the reason why, it wasn't because the offering or the product or the price. It was just because the way people felt about the product, or the offering or the service. And if you can get that part, I mean, it's curtains, but it won't come overnight, Yeah. I mean, just recently, say podcast wise, just recently people have started to reach out and, hey, can I be on the podcast? Can I be on the podcast? Well, for the first year and a half, 2 years, I mean, I was, and I'm still doing it, emailing, texting, Instagram messaging, Facebook messaging, whatever it is, to people saying, I'd like you to be on the show. So, Chrissy Metz from, what is it? The family show. Us. Oh
my goodness. About Us?
Something like that.
Yeah, I know what
you know what I'm talking about. But I met her one time in Vegas years ago, and I've just messaged her. I haven't got a response back, but my response back, I think of this. I believe, this comes from a deep-rooted belief as a kid. I always believed that there was going to be a guy drive up next to whatever car I was driving, and he was going to be in a 1983 to 85 308 GTO, which is a Ferrari that Magnum PI drove. And I was going to pull up to the stoplight or the stop sign, and the guy was going to be driving that car. And he would look over at me and be like, hey, and he would wave, and then he'd get out of the car, he'd come over to my car, he would hand me the keys, and we'd swap cars, and I'd drive away. Now, this doesn't make any sense because I'd have to do pink slips and sign papers and do all this stuff. But in the 7-year-old brain that I have, I thought, this is going to happen. And as it didn't happen each day, I was never thinking, oh my gosh, this is never going to happen. I just keep thinking in my head to this day, it hasn't happened yet. The guy just hasn't found me.
Yeah.
But I think the same way about Oprah. I believe that Oprah, for 31 years of my professional career, has just been busy. That's why she hasn't called. I believe that if she doesn't call today, I think she's going to call today. I believe it. Most likely, if she doesn't at the end of the day, I'm thinking she was busy today. She had a lot of stuff. Oprah has a lot of stuff. So someday she will call and sprinkle her Oprah dust on me, or maybe she's going to be busy for the rest of my life. And I'm okay with either way.
I think we manifest Oprah. Okay, I think she should be a sponsor of the show. Oprah? Just saying. His fucking hair.
Help a brother out. Help a brother out.
I just want you to know we're manifesting every freaking guest. It's going to happen.
And I want to have fun. Like, I want to have fun with them and connect with them. I said when I started out, a guy said, he was in TV. He was Steve Harvey's executive producer, a friend of mine. And he said, you got to have like things. And I never like to compare myself, because that's what my parents taught me. But he said, you have to have like things. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, to explain to a producer, you have to say it's kind of like Magnum PI and Friends and blah, and they had a baby and whatever. So I came up with, I said, my inspiration was My Next Guest Needs No Introduction with David Letterman.
Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to have that type of forum, but I wanted to have the comedy of Jimmy Fallon, the intellect of David Letterman, and the heart of Oprah.
Ooh.
And that wrapped into a show for me would be like, pow. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm still working on it. I'm still working through the stuff. Oprah hasn't called yet. She's busy. Stedman, she's got a lot. She got a lot on her plate. I understand.
How dare she? But
you know what I mean?
It's okay.
But that's not to compare myself in those realms, but I look at it and I'm like, that's the type of situation. And I was telling Cole today, I'm excited about the iterations. Like, I showed him the first YouTube video, and if you go on my YouTube, go in the video section, go all the way down to the bottom, and it is awful. Awful.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Okay. It's bad.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So go to it, and I put a mic in front of me, and I didn't have it plugged in. I just wanted to have a podcast look.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, I get it. Like, as a novice, makes perfect sense.
I put it in front of me. It wasn't plugged in. It's a gold mic. It's god awful. The sound is horrible.
Uh-huh.
But I look at it and I'm like, the iterations as I go through, right? And so I believe the iteration right now, I'm kind of digging. like it. But I
love
know,
your shorts.
I know there's never next levels.
There is.
There's something.
There is, because I actually that's I'm a huge fan of podcasting. Huge fan. And we can wrap up with this because you'll definitely come back. I think this is what I've learned about you. You put brand, like you're helping other people with their brand, right? Mm-hmm. You have a very powerful brand. I love podcasting because it actually made me more self-aware and a much better person by sitting and just being curious. Like really curious.
Mm-hmm.
No expectations, really curious. I've learned so fucking much. It's crazy. So now I'm a firm believer, just like you said. I'm thinking I'm very good because I've gotten a few guests I want to get on that I had no business. I had no relationship. I sent them a video and they replied right back to me. I'm like, all right, me and Kelly are going to have some fun because I had no idea. I thought you had a relationship with Eddie George.
I do now.
Holy fuck. That is incredible. Like, but it also speaks to your persistence and anything that you want. Like looking your 300 episodes is not easy. Most people quit after 10. They don't even make it to 20. So to have the persistence, and like you said, your first one is fucking going to be terrible. Your 10th one's probably going to be horrible. Who cares? Like you did it. And now 300 episodes later, would you recommend for people to look at starting their own podcast? Like, do you think more entrepreneurs should start a podcast? In your opinion, is it for everyone? Should everyone have a podcast?
Let me ask you this question. Who do you think it's not for?
I think, I think everyone should be on a podcast because here's the thing. Like, if you have a vision of what you create, like you created a podcast for your kids, right? Mm-hmm. And then what other goal did you have? Like, did you just want to meet like cool people? What else was your goal?
No, I mean, that was the focal point because like I had my daughter was a big Kids Bop fan when she was little. And we went to the concerts a bunch of times and my whole focus was meeting one of these kids because I wanted her to see that they were just people. And so I ended up meeting one of the kids and his parents, and he was her favorite Kids Bop kid. And now his name is Isaiah Morgan and Sylvia Hernandez. You're out there and I love you. And those two now are friends of my daughter. And so her favorite pop star, one day she came home from school and her favorite pop star was hanging out with her dad. And then she went and got burgers and fries with them. When I set out, my goal was I wanted to have the most sought after interview in the game. The reason why is because the people that came on were allowed to talk about their story as opposed to being about me.
And that's how come I think the format that you have is a successful one because it's got all the right things. And you didn't do it in a studio. You did it yourself and you started. I think anybody should start a podcast. I was telling my 13-year-old to start a podcast because at the end of the day, like you get your message out there, whatever you believe, do it for the right reasons, do it with an authentic, pure heart. Your audience will come to you regardless of what we all have a voice. Okay. Some of our voices should be more positive, but we all have a voice. You know what I mean? Like if all you want to do is spout negativity, probably you want to not start a podcast, but you could. Yeah. I guess there's enough negativity to me, like how I wasted so much time buying leads, doing things that absolutely made no sense, Kelly. Like you look at the shiny object instead of being like, oh, this is who I am. Like, cool. I love talking to fascinating people that do great things in their communities, give a positive message. And now you and I have an incredible relationship built in an hour and 10 minutes. And you're going to be coming back and we're going to change lives together. Yeah. I'm going to meet fascinating guests that you're going to come your way and be like, oh shit, like you're going on Kelly's podcast. And that's, I think, the power of being authentic, being real. Like what better avenue? Instead of going and meeting 1,000 people, I can do a podcast episode, put this out, and I might meet 100 people I never expected. Your daughter didn't think she was going to meet her dream pop star. Is like, holy shit, did my dad just do that?
Yeah.
That is insane.
Well,
so Is there anyone else on the top 5 list? So we have
FaZe Rug from YouTube.
FaZe Rug.
Yeah, I need FaZe Rug on. He's a San Diego guy. My son's a huge fan of his. And the whole reason why I do YouTube is because my son, he thinks I'm cooler if I have more subs. And so I put my stuff on YouTube because that's what he watches. And so him and his friends, but FaZe Rug is a big one. The other one is a guy named AJ Green. He does flag football YouTube channel.
Okay.
And he goes to the YouTube or flag football all over the place, and they just commentate on it, and they're hilarious. And he does this thing, wee, and he makes bets with his friend. They're funny, and my son watches it all the time. And he's like, "Dad, do you think you get AJ Green?" And I was like, "I mean, yes, it's going to take some time, but I'm working on that. I'm working on that in sending him messages from my wife. I want to have Bruno Mars on." Because that's her star crush, and she loves him more than anything. Jason Momoa would be cool for my wife too, although I don't want her to meet him because then she'll see what's possible in life. But Momoa is a phenomenal guy.
He's funny too.
Oh yeah, he's really hilarious. Funny. And then I don't know. I mean, sky's the limit for me. Like my favorite rock star of all time is Lenny Kravitz. And so I want to have Lenny Kravitz, De La Soul. De La Soul is my favorite hip hop group of all time.
Really?
And my best friend, Will, from 1989, he showed me a 3 Feet High and Rising. And De La never got their digital rights. They were held back, and they just released them. And it was 3 weeks after Dave, Plug One, passed away. And so there's only 2 left, Plug 2, which is Pasta News, and Maceo, which is the DJ. And I want to have the 2 of them because they are the soundtrack of my entire life and friendship with my buddy Will. And so my buddy Will, I want him in the studio. I want De La Soul in the studio, and for us to have a conversation because they shaped our entire life through their music. And at a time when one of the hardest times in my life, when I move away from Southern California to Memphis, and I start off in my career and all my friends are just going to college having a good time, their CD called Stakes is High came out. And it was Stakes is High. Like, it resonated with me, and I lived through as a soundtrack again of my life and my friendship. So that's what I want to do. And I constantly ask my brother, I had the kicker from, he was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers named Matt Gay. He was, but he became a Ram. My brother's a Rams fan, and he won the Super Bowl with the Rams, and he had been on before. So these kind of things, like this is the gift that I can give to all of my friends and my loved ones. And I ask them, and I ask you, Oli, who do you want to meet? Who would you want to meet?
Oh, the list is okay. So
give me a top 3.
Top 3, Justin Jefferson would be for Luke.
Gritty.
Okay.
Got it.
So when you said your son is a Titans fan,
yeah.
My son is a huge Vikings fan.
So Justin Jefferson.
For Connor, it would be, oh my goodness.
But what about for you? For me,
yeah, for me, I would love Alex Hermosi.
Okay.
Tom Bilyeu.
Yeah.
Okay. And Warren Buffett.
Okay. So Bilyeu, the crazy thing is I'm 1 degree away from Tom Bilyeu.
No, you're not.
Yeah, because my friend Tim Story, who's phenomenal.
Oh, Tim Story.
Yeah, okay. Tim Story is friends with Tim Ballou, has been on his show, Impact Theory. I don't know Tim. I don't know Tom personally, but Tim Story, you need to have on the podcast. And he's a phenomenal guy. He's a great friend of mine. And he's friends with Tom Ballou. So that's what I'm saying is like that's why I ask you, is because as we go along, I ask all my friends, like, who do you want to, like my friend, and I haven't spoke this, but I'm working on it right now. And if she hears this, it'll mess up the story or mess up the surprise. But my friend told me when I first started the podcast, her name is Cassie Pike. She's the wife of one of my best friends since I was in like 9th grade. His name is Andy Pike. Cassie's a high-level executive, amazing woman. She has one of the most listened to podcasts on mine. Her name is Cassie Pike. She's been on twice. She's phenomenal. She said it would be cool someday to meet Mel Robbins.
Okay. Ooh. Okay.
So right now, I'm on the quest for Mel Robbins because I want to give that gift to Cassie. And so these gifts for me, and if for my listeners of the podcast, I want them to send in like, hey, I want you to meet this person, or I want to meet this person. I would love for you to interview. And what do I have to lose? Literally. Like, they're already not my friend. So if I reach out to them and they don't want to be my friend, I'm already not their friend. But I believe there's a way. There's always a way. I tried. This is crazy how God works. Episode 300.
Yes.
I wanted Gerard Butler.
Okay.
Because he was in 300.
Yeah.
And my wife said that would be a good.
Oh.
So I reach out to him. I didn't get a response. Well, I did connect with a guy named Lonnie Paxton. Lonnie Paxton, you know what his name really is?
What?
Leonidas.
No. How come?
That's his name. Leonidas is.
Oh, he goes Lonnie?
But he goes by Lonnie. Who was the main character in 300?
Leonidas.
Got it. So my 300 episode was with Leonidas, although I thought in my head it's Gerard Butler. I got Leonidas though. And so that's the way that God works, because he'll give you a vision, but it isn't going to come in the packaging that you want. Meanwhile, I get a 3-time Super Bowl champion that hung out with Tom Brady and is friends with Tom Brady and friends with Gronk and now he's my buddy. Like, Lonnie's my buddy now.
Oh, you hit it off. He was telling that story about him and Tom Brady about like when they were both from Cali, and you were talking about the suit story.
Oh my gosh.
He met the president with a...
So it's those kind of things that I think that is the beauty, right? And so people ask me all the time, they're like, oh, when I got into podcasting, they're like, how are you going to make money? I was like, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't even know. And I was like, I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But they said the same thing about cutting hair. They're like, yeah. Okay. So that's cute. Whenever someone pats me on the head, says that's cute, then I know I'm on the right track. Not because I think they're proud of me, it's because they don't understand. I didn't understand, because everyone told me when you start a podcast, you have to have a course, you have to have this, you have to have that, and it's just a funnel and you do the stuff. That can be a way to do it. But I wanted the podcast to be the product. I wanted the show to be the product. Now, but I'm figuring it out. I'm not at that place. Like when people are like, what could be your thing? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I believe that I could, show you how to build your empire 3 figures at a time.
3 figures at a time?
Because everyone's like, I'm going to make 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. I'm talking about 3 figures. Like, you ain't going to do nothing until you make your first hell, let's go 1 figure.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Let's go 1 figure.
Yeah.
And so if you can make 1 figure, you can make 2. If you can make 2, you can make 3. But most people are jumping to 8, 9, 10. And I've just never seen it happen that way.
Yeah, I don't. This is my 3rd podcast. I've never done it for money. I think I look at this as I have so much fun doing it because I get to challenge myself to be better. Like when you brought up studying Oprah, do you know how much? I'm not kidding with you. I know you're laughing, but I've been studying Oprah as far as like how to become an incredible host.
Oh yeah,
because she's so freaking amazing. And I get it. I'm not talking about trying to make people cry and stuff, but like you got to be a student, and the better I've gotten in this seat, the better interactions and relationships, because it's all about the other person, and it's storytelling. Like a lot of podcasts aren't about storytelling. A lot of podcasts are about like, here, let me take you here. This is what this episode is all about. I don't fucking know what this episode is about. What are you in the mood to talk about today? And let's just go there. Yeah. Like, it's about you. So if you want to go all over the place, let's go all over the place. And that's, I think I actually want more people to start podcasts. And the reason why it's important for me is because I think be the real you. You talked about this. You're like, whatever, I'm going to say what's on my mind. I'm going to be myself. And when you're yourself, you'll be amazed at the doors that open up. Now, I have a thought about don't be so eager to get through the door where you start looking for other doors.
Well, I think this was a hard one. I learned it about, I used the analogy the other day of Taylor Swift because my daughter's a huge Swiftie. And she just went to the concert at SoFi. It was the top of the stadium for $1 million. But I asked the person, if my daughter went to this concert and Taylor Swift came out and covered the Rolling Stones for 2 hours, how do you think my daughter would feel? She'd be pissed. She's a Swiftie and she'd be mad.
Right.
And most likely you would ask for a refund for your tickets because she played music that wasn't her own. How do you think people feel when you're faking the funk and not being yourself? Because your audience is already in the seat. They've already bought the tickets, but they're waiting for you to play your own music. And that's when, see, most people are like, oh, you can build your audience. No, you won't build your audience. They're already waiting. But they're waiting for you to show up and play your music. Sometimes you show up to your audience and you don't play your music. And so that's why you don't think they're your audience. But they're waiting. And there's an audience for every single person. I just went with my daughter to D-Task. I don't know what it stands for.
Okay.
But it's a drama competition up in LA.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's like 800 kids. And we get there and I thought I was going to read a book, write, and while my daughter went off and did the things, but I was like, no, I want to be in the class. And they were doing drama competitions with scenes and the whole nine. It was amazing. And I was watching. And then at lunch, then they turn on music, a DJ, and it was the middle of the day. They created a dance circle. These kids were going at it. Kids with no rhythm were off to the side dancing. No one was judging them. These were all the quote unquote kind of weird kids. And I was one of those. And they embraced it because they were in their crew, in their tribe.
Yeah.
And everyone was okay. And I realized at that point, all of us have a place where we're going to completely let go and be free, but that's in our tribe. And once you find that, and my daughter found that, and this was the kids who a lot of times in high school or grade school or whatever got looked at as they're weird or whatever, but these kids were like, we're all weird together. We're all free. And once you get to that point and you could just be free to be yourself. I saw this one kid and he was dancing. He had no rhythm, Oli, no rhythm. He was just jumping up and down.
Him and I would be hanging out.
Doing the African anteater ritual from Can't Buy Me Love. He was getting it. And I was just like, I was so happy for him and no one was making fun of him. He was doing his thing. And if we could get to that point, and that's where I want to live. I want to live in a place where I dance, and if I don't have any rhythm, I'm not worried if someone is going to say, and that place is a place where I believe if you keep doing that kind of stuff, people will catch on or they won't, and either is okay.
It is okay. I've just taken the approach that, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm going to start with the change. I'm going to be the change. Like, you got to be the change. Like, it's just so much more hopeful when you're consistently like, no matter what happens, I'm going to be the positive light. Like, I genuinely believe in being the light for people that, hey, you know what? There's too much division. I'd rather focus on the unity. Life is simple that way. Isn't it? You're smirking, big. What do you think?
I mean, I think people always accuse me of having rose-colored glasses, and I think that
I love those.
I think you should buy them.
Yeah.
I think you should buy them however you can. Mine were issued to me because my brother would step in between fights between my parents and throw me in the room and say, play with your toys. And I didn't know it at the time, but my brother was forming my rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Because I thought everything is cool. I'm in here playing with my toys. And meanwhile, my brother's out taking an ass beating and jumping in between my parents while they're fighting. But he was protecting me. And imagine you can do that for other people. And honestly, like, you ever hear the story about the guy? He goes out and gets a horse out of the meadow. The horse isn't broken. He brings it back home, and he has this horse. And they say, "Oh my gosh, it's so great that you have this new horse." And he says, "Maybe." And then the horse is in the pen, and his son gets out there. He's 18 years old, and he gets into the pen. He starts riding the horse, and the horse bucks him off and breaks his arm. And they say, "Oh my gosh, isn't it so awful that you got that horse and it broke your son's arm?" He said, "Maybe." Well, the next day they come to draft people into the military, and because his son has a broken arm, he doesn't have to go to war. And they say, isn't it so great that your son didn't have to go to war? And he said, maybe. And you can maybe all the way through. It's all in the way that we look at that thing. And I choose, for me, I choose to look at it in a way that it's my advantage. Oprah didn't call today because she's busy. She'll call tomorrow. I wasn't ready today to have Oprah in my life.
True.
Right? I wasn't ready. Maybe I wasn't ready financially, spiritually, professionally, whatever it was, but she's going to call tomorrow.
Oprah is calling soon. I just want to let you know, I manifest shit. Oprah, you're calling. We're gonna have you on speed dial. I hope someone sends you this. Right?
She has a house in Montecito. I grew up in Lompoc. I grew up in Lompoc. Those kind of things. I think that if you could just have that, and when I say if you can have it, use it as inspiration, right? But everyone's journey, like my pops would always say to me, like, you're exactly where you need to be at the exact right time. And God's big enough to have you in another place if you needed to be there. And imagine if we just sat in that place. And my brother, I was like, I'm going to change an industry. I'm going to do this. And he's like, the industry don't give a damn about you, man. Yeah. He said, impact and connect with the people that sit around your table, Maddox, McKenna, and Brooklyn. And that's the place where the ripple will start. And if you can do that, because I see so many times, and I've done it where, I want to go out and impact all these lives and do all these things. My mission, you hear this all the time now. It's a buzzword. My mission is to impact 1 billion lives. How about the 3 around the table, 4 around the table? That's what I would say.
I'm not even there. I 100% like, the problem was too big for me to like, hey, I'm gonna be the best in San Diego at so-and-so. And now I'm like, just one person. Yeah. Like, awesome. Hey, Cole, nice to meet you. Yay, let's go. So much easier. Like, call my boys. Kelly, I hope you had fun.
Thank you.
This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
We're going to do this again. And Kelly Cardenas, we're going to put all his handles. You're definitely going to want to follow him. Someone that just brings the right vibe. So you can build your tribe. And he's hip hop. I'm not rapping. That was about the end of it. Any final words? This is my favorite part. Who do you want to thank? Who makes Kelly Cardenas' life better every day? You've already said your wife and your family.
My wife and my family.
So who else you got?
Greg Reed is a massive friend. Most people think about it as like a business thing for me, being the co-host of Secret Knock, the number one networking conference in the world that you can't go to unless you get an invite. And most people think, oh man, it's the advantage. No, Greg came into my life, and about 6 or 7 months later, maybe 7 months, my pops passed away. And playing pool with Greg, spending time with him, just being around and being his friend, and his friendship, really, it wasn't that weird kind of like, oh, you're replacing my father. That's not what it is. It was a friend at a specific time that was willing to, for me, every time I came over, he would make me a snack and he would make sure that I ate first. He would get me a drink before he got himself a drink. He would show that type of grace to me. And he showed me a world. He pulled me aside and he said, you're next. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He pulled me, and then he said it in front of David Corbin, who's a phenomenal human being in the personal development realm. And Greg Reed's the Michael Jordan of the personal development realm. And we were at dinner, Walrung Riri. He took me and my wife, and he introduced me to David Corbin as, this is the next guy. And I just think that it takes a large person with a phenomenal heart to even speak that kind of life into someone, And so Greg Reed, I love you, brother. I beat you at pool. You know it. He could beat me at chess, but on the pool table, I got him. So I love you, man. You're an incredible inspiration to me. And, I hope I can do that to more people.
Greg Reed goals. I get it. That's phenomenal. Hey, man.
Love you, man.
I appreciate you.